Hello friends, in this video lecture which is based on PPT, I'm going to discuss LM curve. As we know that ISLM model can be analyzed graphically as well along with algebraic approach. So to analyze ISLM model graphically, we derive first IS curve and then we derive LM curve. In one of my video lectures, I discussed derivation of IS curve. Now it is the turn for LM curve. LM curve stands for money market equilibrium, and to derive that we have got these two diagrams. One diagram basically is this one. It stands for money market, and the second one stands for derivation of LM curve. In the first diagram, which is for the money market, we have two sides, money supply and money demand. As you know, market has got two components, demand and supply, right? Maybe you have got vegetables market, you have got foreign exchange market, you have got petrol market, right? You have got health market. Similarly, you have got money market. So in money market, you have got two sides, money supply and money demand. Since LM curve stands for money market equilibrium, therefore we need to understand that what is that equilibrium, right? And how does the equilibrium condition in money market award us LM curve, right? So here if you look at the definition of LM curve, right, it says that LM curve is made of various combinations of income and interest rate where each combination is characterized by money market equilibrium. So we will be able to prove this, what you call definitions of LM curve, right? So let us derive LM curve, right? So here in the first diagram we have here y-axis we measure rate of interest, and on x-axis we measure money supply and money demand, right? Now as far as representing money supply is concerned, we already know that money supply in this ISLM model is exogenous, is determined by the central bank of the concerned country. In case of India, it is RBI. And what would be the level of money supply is purely the prerogative of the central bank. It can increase, it can decrease. So therefore we don't know what would be the money supply tomorrow. So therefore we take this money supply as given as of now, right? So given this decision of money supply being completely under the control of central bank, and central bank has different whims and fancies to decide the money supply, which we are unable to capture in this simple model, right? The factors which determine the money supply. So we take this money supply as fixed, right? So money supply we take as exogenous, money supply we take as given, right? So this is what your money supply is, right? So the money supply lines is vertical, right? That represents given level of money supply, right? So here initially we have money supply as M bar upon P, and remember it is the real money supply, right? So the real money supply is decided by the quantity of nominal money supply divided by the price. So that gives you that how much goods and services that total money supply can buy, right, in the economy. So this is what your real money supply. So you've got money supply line vertical. Now to find out equilibrium in this diagram for the money market, we need to have money demand line, right? So money demand line, we know that money demand is the function of income and interest rate. Money demand is the function of income and interest rate, right? Money demand is positively related to income and negatively related to interest rate. Money demand positively related to income stands for money held by individuals for the purpose of day-to-day transactions and for meeting contingencies requirement, right? And money demand associated or determined by rate of interest is called speculative demand for money. So you have got total demand for money being positively related to income and negatively related to rate of interest. However, since we are having interest rate on y-axis and money demand on x-axis, remember money demand we are representing here by L, right? So the money demand on x-axis, and if we want to find out how money demand is related to rate of interest, so we have to take y as constant, right? Only then we can find out relationship between L and I, and of course K and H are parameters. Okay, so so what would be this y that we can assume to be given in the second diagram by here, by this point y naught, right? In second diagram, again, just to repeat that, on y-axis we are measuring interest rate and on x-axis we are measuring in income level or GDP level or output level in the economy, right? So initially we have got y naught level of equilibrium income. Right now, at this equilibrium income, we can derive money demand that would be downward sloping line, right? That will be represented by downward sloping line, right? So this line represents the money demand at each level of interest rate given equilibrium income, right? So given income level y naught, this money demand line measures the relationship between money demand and rate of interest, right? So you get downward sloping money demand line, right? Okay, so downward sloping money demand line. So given this money demand line, where is the equilibrium? The equilibrium will be where money demand line intersects the money supply line, right? And it is at point E1, right? It is at point E1 where money demand is equal to money supply, because money supply line intersects money demand line, and therefore the rate of interest which clears the market, money market, right? And of course it also clears the bond market, because we know that when money market is in equilibrium, financial market also or bond market also would be in equilibrium, right? So at I naught interest rate, money market is clear, money demand is equal to money supply, therefore I naught is equilibrium interest rate. Now this equilibrium interest rate is associated with y naught equilibrium level of income, and this combinations of interest rate I naught and y naught we can show in the second diagram, right? So we just draw a dotted line here to identify the same level of interest rate which we have here, I naught, over here, right? So this I naught is the equilibrium interest rate which occurs at y naught level of income. So we get a combinations of equilibrium income and interest rate at point A, and at that combination of income and interest rate at point A, money market is in equilibrium, right? So we got one combinations of income and interest rate, right? That way we need to derive another combination, and suppose to derive that another combination, we assume that equilibrium income in goods market has increased, right, from y naught to y1. It might be due to rise in autonomous investment, or might be due to rise in government expenditure, or might be due to rise in net export, right? So any component of autonomous aggregate demand might have increased, and that has led to rise in equilibrium income from y naught to y1, right? From y naught to y1. Now what will happen to money market, right? Basically this LM curve tells you that how goods market affects the money market. In other words, how money market is dependent upon goods market. This is what your LM curve analysis is. The way IS curve basically tells you that goods market is dependent upon money market. Similarly here, LM curve or LM equation tells you that money market is dependent upon goods market. So this tells you another dimensions of interdependency of goods market and money market, right? Now once income has gone up, what would happen? If the interest rate was I naught, right, at this interest rate, and once income rises, this would immediately lead to rise in money demand. And how much money demand would rise? The rise in money demand would be K, right? That is parameter showing the relationship between money demand and income, K into rise in income. And what is rise in income? Y1 minus Y0, right? OY1 minus OY0, right? That is more properly to say. Okay, so your rightward shift of money demand line would be exactly equal to K into delta Y. Delta Y is nothing but what you call Y0 Y1. Okay, so here is the difference between Y0 Y1. Greater would be the horizontal shift of money demand line, lower is the rise in equilibrium income from Y0 to Y1, right? Smaller will be horizontal shift of money demand line. So the horizontal shift of money demand line happens primarily because of rise in income level. Now once the money demand rises, right, so that we will show by shifting this money demand line to the right hand side, right? So once money demand line has shifted rightward, right, we are not going to remain at I naught, right? Because at I naught we will be having money demand not matching to the level of money supply, because the money demand is starting, I mean, if you look at this money demand line, it's this whole portion is money demand, right? And while money supply is this much, right? So if income rises from Y0 to Y1, there is excess demand for money. Now once there is excess demand for money, right, what would happen? The interest rate would rise, right? And the interest rate would keep rising till money demand becomes exactly equal to money supply, right? So at I naught, right, we get equality of money demand and money supply, right? In other words, at point E2 we get money demand line intersecting money supply line and giving us equilibrium interest rate I1, right? So here equilibrium interest rate has gone up from I0 to I1, right? Now this I1 is associated with which income level such that money market is in equilibrium? Definitely it is associated with Y1, right? Here in the diagram it is Y1. Okay, so now we can again find out another combinations of income and interest rate where money market is in equilibrium. So let us uh, uh, have this dotted line to represent this I1, which is same level of interest rate as this one. Okay, so we get I1 interest rate here, right? Now this I1 interest rate is associated with which level of income? Y1 level of income, such that what? Money market is in equilibrium, right? So we can find out that combinations by drawing line in this space, which is exactly to the right side of I1, and then we draw line from dotted line from Y1, right, which meets what you call the line which we have drawn from I1 interest rate, right? So this we get point B. So point B basically stands for a combinations of income Y1 and interest rate I1 such that money market is in equilibrium. So we have got another combinations, right, of income and interest rate where money market is in equilibrium. That way we can find out various combinations of income and interest rate at which money market would be in equilibrium. And remember, those all points would be located uh, uh, exactly between this A and B and beyond B and before A, right? So if we join all those combinations, right, A and B being the prominent one because we have derived those combinations, right, we get upward sloping LM curve. What do we get? We get upward sloping LM curve, right? So Now you could see that A, B, and there are various other points, right, which would be derived, and those points would be derived, which will show the combinations of income and interest rate, where each combination or that combination should be characterized by equilibrium in money market, right? So we get LM curve, so which can be defined as a line which is our curve, which is made of various combinations of income and interest rate, where each combination is characterized by money market equilibrium. So this is how we derive LM curve, right? I hope it is clear. Now once we have derived LM curve, question arises that what determines the location of LM curve, right? We can have rightwardly shifted LM curve, leftwardly shifted LM curve, or rightward located LM curve, or leftward located LM curve. But the question is what determines the locations, right? So that issue we need to discuss, and we also need to discuss what affects the slope of LM curve. What affects the slope of LM curve? Why do we need to discuss the factors which affect the slope of LM curve? Because it is the slope of LM curve which is going to decide how effective monetary policy would be, or how effective fiscal policy would be, right? So the slopes of IS and LM curves are basically used to explain the effectiveness of each policy, right? However, here in this particular lecture, I am not going to discuss the slope, determinants of slope of LM curves right now, but I will be discussing the factor which causes shift in LM curve, right? Now there is only one factor which is responsible for shift in LM curve, and that is monetary policy. As we know, monetary policy is nothing but a policy which intends to control the money supply, right? So if monetary policy of the central bank of the concerned country raises money supply, then that monetary policy is called expansionary monetary policy. If the central bank reduces money supply, then it's called contractionary monetary policy, right? So it is the money supply which is going to shift the LM curve. In other words, it is the monetary policy, expansionary or contractionary, which is going to shift the LM curve. So let us see what happens in this particular lecture. What happens to LM curve if money supply rises in the economy, right? So let us see that. If money supply rises in the economy, what would happen, right? As we know, we are measuring money supply on the y-axis in the first diagram. So if money supply falls, this money supply line will shift leftward. If money supply rises, right, this money supply line will shift rightward, right? The slope will remain unaffected. The slope will be vertical. Okay, so let us say this is what your new money supply line is, where central bank has increased money supply from M0 to M1, right? Let us call that rise in money supply as delta M, right? And we are assuming price to remain fixed. So we have got rise in money supply by delta M, right? Delta M by P. Okay, you can call it delta M by P. So this is what your rise in money supply. So once money supply is increased, your money supply line is shifted rightward. Okay. If money supply rises more, the what we call horizontal shift of this money supply line will be more. If it rises less, then it will be less. If money supply falls, then this money supply line will shift leftward, right? So let us say here money supply has increased and this money supply line has shifted rightward. Okay. Now what would happen to equilibrium interest rate at y naught level of income, right? We are assuming that income level in the goods market is at y naught. So if income level from the goods market is at y naught, then what would happen? The money demand line remains the same. It does not change, right? Money demand line does not change. It remains the same, right? Now we don't have any more I naught being equilibrium interest rate. Why? Because if we have I naught as interest rate, then there you will have money supply being more than money demand. Okay. So what will happen ultimately, that you get new equilibrium point, which is characterized by intersections of new money supply line and old money demand, right? And it occurs at this point. I'm calling it E prime 1 point, right? This is another equilibrium point, okay, after rise in money supply at same level of income y naught, right? So this gives us what you call lower interest rate, and it is shown here as I prime naught. I prime naught. I prime naught is the new equilibrium interest rate, which is corresponding to which level of income? Y naught level of income, right? So now with increased money supply, right, the combinations of income and interest rate has changed. The income level remains the same, but the interest rate has gone down, and that combinations would be shown at a point which will be located below A, because income does not change, income is remaining at the same level, right? So we get new combinations here, that is being called here A prime, right? So A prime is the combinations of Y naught and I prime naught at which money market is in equilibrium, right? Okay, at E naught, sorry, E prime 1. Fine. Now with increased money supply, if income rises from Y naught to Y1, what would happen to equilibrium level of income? Of course, it will not remain at E prime 1, right? Because the money demand rises, and money demand rises due to rise in what you call equilibrium income from Y0 to Y1. So you get this new money demand line, right? Now wherever this new money demand line is intersecting this or the old money demand line that is intersecting this new money supply line, right, that will give you the new equilibrium point, right? So that is expressed here by E prime 2, right? E prime 2, this is the new equilibrium point in the money market, and that gives us interest rate which is I prime 1, right? Now this I prime 1 is associated with which level of income level such that money market is in equilibrium? It is associated with Y1, right? So these combinations of I prime 1 and Y1 can be shown in the second diagram, right? Now this point of new combinations of that Y1 and I prime 1 will be shown at point B, right? Here you have got that combinations. Okay, so now similarly we can again find out with increased money supply, we can find out various combinations of income and interest rate by assuming various level of income and correspondingly various level of equilibrium interest rate here, right? So if we join A dash and B dash, what do we get? We get what you call a new LM curve, right? So this is what your new LM curve is. Let us call this LM prime, right? So what has happened here, that if money supply has increased, LM curve has shifted rightward. LM curve has shifted rightward. With the same logic, if the money supply falls, what would happen? Right, at Y0 the interest rate would be more than I naught, and at Y1 interest rate would be more than I1, and in that situation you will get a new LM curve which will be a different LM curve which will be located to the left hand side of LM curve. So what does it mean? That if money supply rises, LM curve shifts rightward, and if money supply falls, then LM curve shifts leftward, right? So we have here the point that expansionary monetary policy, which is nothing but rise in money supply, leads to rightward shift of LM curve, and contractionary monetary policy, which is nothing but fall in money supply, will lead to leftward shift of LM curve, right? The rightward shift of LM curve due to rise in money supply will be exactly equal to delta M by P upon K. The horizontal shift of LM shows the extent of rise in income to keep the interest rate same. That means when we are talking about the rightward shift of LM curve, basically we are showing here that how much income has to rise after rise in money supply to right to make the money demand exactly equal to uh, money supply, so that the rate of interest remains unaffected, right? So this is the horizontal shift, which is your delta y, and that must be equal to delta m upon p divided by k, right? So this is what the extent of horizontal shift of LM curve would be, right? In case if delta m by p is higher, then LM curve will be shifting more to the right hand side. If delta m by p is lower, then LM curve would be shifting less to the right hand side, right? Similarly, if delta m by p is negative, that means money supply falls, then LM curve would be shifting leftward, right? And again, the extent of leftward shift would depend upon the magnitude of delta m given p and k. So this is what your LM curve analysis is. I hope it is clear to you that LM curve is nothing but various combinations of income and interest rate, where each combination of income and interest rate is characterized by equilibrium in money market. Number one. Number two, LM curve is always upward sloping, right? I mean, you can see here in LM equation also, right, that I and Y are positively related. If Y rises, I rises. If Y falls, I falls, right? So if we could get this positive relationship between I and Y algebraically, right, here also we are able to get LM curve showing positive relationship between Y and Y, and this Y and I, and this positive relationship we have derived using the diagram where we are talking about money market equilibrium, and on the basis of money market equilibrium we are able to derive upward sloping LM curve, right? Third, that expansionary monetary policy would shift LM curve to the right hand side, and contractionary monetary policy would shift LM curve to the left hand side. The extent of shift of LM curve would be decided by this value, delta m by p upon k. Thank you so much for having patience and uh, watching this video on LM curve. In another video lecture, I would discuss about the slope of LM curve. Thank you so much again.